Hello my friends, I've been playing about 60 hours of Total War Warhammer 3, which I know is not much compared to other fans of this game, but I think it's enough to get a good idea of how this game and its mechanics work, as well as how it plays in with the story and how it all feels. This will be a review, but different to what you might see on other channels. I may get some things wrong because I'm not a full-on consumer of Warhammer lore, so I'll try and see this as someone stepping into the lore through the game and then reading some stuff on the side about the old world through wikis on the internet. I also get on a personal level with some of the culture aspects. Warhammer 3's main protagonists are Kislev, the people which have been through a lot of pain, war and attrition. These people live in the northern part of the old world, just northeast of the Empire, east of the Sea of Claws and right under the brutal factions such as the Forces of Chaos or the Viking-like Norscans. The people of Kislev have the burden of being the protectors of the south against the waves of invaders from the north. If you manage to survive in this part of the world, then you must be really tough, both mentally and physically. To call a Kislevian primitive would be a mistake, for a Kislevian has been sharpened like a sword through tough winters and battles and have managed to withstand the test of time. They are the definition of an unbreakable people. The only good thing about their location is that to their east there is a border of mountains, in which the dwarves are entrenched deeply in their carracks. The dwarves are busy fighting the invaders from the blasted wastes, so Kislev doesn't have to worry about that front at least. Kislevite culture is very similar, I would say, to that of real-world Russians, from the way that they live, to the way that they dress, and to their belief system as well as their symbolism is very much of Russian inspiration. But at least when Russia was ruled by Tsars in a tightly knit religious Orthodox Christian Tsardom. Orthodox Christianity, in case you didn't know, was the Eastern Christian belief system with its origin in the Eastern Roman Empire. They were very much into keeping things as original as possible and not modifying the chants, the clothes or the architecture, and they were in complete opposition to Western Christianity, which was basically a competition of who can modify and create more new and complex things. It is the reason why when you hear a Catholic choir it all sounds positive and uplifting, while an Orthodox Christian chant will sound a bit more serious, melancholic, deep, but also humbling yourself to God. In other words, the Orthodox take themselves and their belief very seriously. It's a bit of a more hardcore version, less about just love and bliss, but more about hoping to get to that love, but through obedience and discipline, having to work hard enough to be considered worthy for God's love. The leader of an Orthodox land had to get their blessing from the patriarch of the church in order to be allowed to rule. The patriarch is like a pope in the West, but he is not considered a saint. He is a priest, but with a manager role over the different Christian regions of a country, which are ruled by archbishops. In Kislev, the supreme patriarch of the cult of Ursun is Kostaltyn, and he is a caricature version of a Christian Orthodox patriarch and religious dictator. He is the embodiment of Orthodoxy. In fact, they use this word in the game, and Kostaltyn's faction is called the Great Orthodoxy. Kostaltyn is an exaggeration of a Christian Orthodox monk. For example, an Orthodox monk may reach a point where he doesn't value things of this world or himself and gives himself completely to God. Everything he does is for God, and he tries to pray all the time, excluding when he eats or works around the monastery or feed the cats or the local bear. Kostaltyn shouts these values to his men on the battlefield. Things like absolute obedience, or never-ending worship, or you shouldn't care if you die today. You should only think that if we lose this battle, we are unworthy of Ursun. It's hard to be accurate, you'll have to hear him yourself, but it's not that positive of a war speech. It's more like giving yourself completely to Ursun and forgetting about yourself anywhere in the picture.
Cowardice earns only execution at my hands. I care not if you die. I care only that you show absolute devotion to Kislev. Our cause is Ursun's cause. To falter is to fail him. To fail him is heresy.
The smaller patriarchs say things like, I will give myself 10 lashes because I failed in my action. That is when you use them to try and assassinate the target. The cult of Orson's god is a bear god, a god of strength, the patron god of the Tsardom of Kislev. In real life, Orthodox monks have been seen playing around with bears, which is the main wild animal in Eastern Europe. Even I get visited by them. In fact, in Romania, I think we have the largest population of bears in Europe. Russia's national animal is the bear, and they have been referred to as the bear in Western culture. Kislev's winters are freezing to death kind of colds, kinda like Russia's Siberia. Kislev's belief system is the orthodoxy of the bear. The bear is the symbol of Russia. Kislevite clothes are like Orthodox priests from Christian Orthodoxy, including exaggerated, caricaturized versions of the theology itself, depicted through people like Supreme Patriarch Kostaltyn and the other patriarchs. The question is Kostaltyn Vladimir Putin, and did the game predict the special military operation? Okay, I'm joking. But here is where I might not be joking. The fact is, I'm kind of like Kostaltyn myself, or maybe like 5%, but I do believe that Orthodox Christianity is the closest to the truth when it comes to Christianity, mainly because of their discipline to keep things consistent and never change anything for 2000 years. Now, that being said, if you were an occultist Satanist who controls entertainment and wanted to subliminally influence people to develop a hate towards or to make fun of something that it was the closest to God, that would be it. Make fun of Orthodox Christianity. Make them into the ultimate religious extremists, the people that are crazy enough to fight and win against the forces of chaos. In fact, that is what the wizard says when he considers Kostaltyn as the potential quest bearer in terms of who is going to fight his way into the realms of chaos and save Orson. Kostaltyn, the crazy Orthodox patriarch. You know, it's funny that in the trailer, Kostaltyn looks like a wise old man, but when you play the game, he looks like a homeless, insane person. I probably lost a bunch of people here who were expecting just a gameplay review, and I'm sorry about that. This is where I'm different from the other channels. I look into what agendas could potentially exist in games, and for what reason. Another thing I would like to mention here is that the game makes you think that you are playing for Kislev, who fight against the forces of chaos and evil, but somehow they get you to use those same evil powers that the forces of chaos use. Think about it. To free Orson, you have to collect 4 souls from the realms of chaos. In those realms, you can grab, for example, a chaos magic sword, which then you use against your enemies. Now, according to, let's say, Kostaltyn, he shouldn't accept any of this because it's blasphemy. But not using it as the player makes you less strong, so who would want that? Also, all these demons, when you defeat them, they drop armors, weapons, and talismans that you then put on your character to make them stronger. Again, Kostaltyn would consider this blasphemy, but then he would be completely underpowered if he didn't use them. Other big games where you get the power by letting the evil to flow through you are Skyrim, where you absorb dragon souls, or Doom, where you get argent energy into your body, which is extracted from hell. There are other games like this, but I just mentioned these to show you that there is a theme. Okay, if you want another one, there is also Prey, a game where through neuromods you implant into your brain different abilities through a technology that extracts its energy from demonic black goo entities in space. It's like transhumanist technology but mixed with demonic stuff. My point is that to fight evil we should be using good, and in Orthodox culture you can't be a Hellboy, you can't defeat demons with demonic technology. Why is it that in games or TV shows that are about defeating demons it's never been with good, but always through occult weapons that have nothing to do with God or angels? In vampire shows they don't talk about God, they always use special bullets or ancient magical weapons or something. They may do the cross-melting thing, but that's more in old-school movies. In other words, people just like Satan, and even when they want to defeat him, they want to defeat him with other demonic and cool looking things. It's always cool to be bad or bad good, but never just good in these things. I guess we have the Kislevite winged lancers, but those are based off of the historical hussars from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth between the 16th and 18th centuries. But those are more of a Catholic unit, and Kostaltyn wouldn't like that so much since he fights for the great Orthodoxy. In the defense of the game, not being a blasphemy, I could say that through its story, it does give a message that messing with these evil things, even to defeat demons, can lead to some undesired consequences. And here I will have some spoilers for you. In the prologue story of Yuri Barkov, as he campaigns to find Ursun, he lets go of some of his principles and uses chaos magic and weapons in order to fight chaos. But slowly and surely he loses his mind and is easily influenced by the demon at the end to shoot the bear, because he now represents a weak god and therefore responsible for Kislev's weakness. He becomes possessed and mad for power, just like Belakor, and eventually gets transformed into a full demon himself. In the main campaign, the advisor, who used the magical book to open the breach for you to go in the realm of chaos and save Ursun, he becomes cursed and blind because of it. He wanted to know its secrets, now that he has the 4 souls in it, but can't now. So there are risks in dealing with these forces, is what the game is saying, which is fair enough. You decide. At the end of the day, it's just a story. So you decide. But I'm telling you, if this game had, let's say, caricatures of Jews and Jewish culture, they would have the ADL on Creative Assembly and try to censor it or shut it down, which in my opinion is completely stupid, as I am not for censorship. We Orthodox actually stick to ourselves and don't get butthurt at jokes or even media attacks, which Warhammer 3 is far from doing, but just saying. If Kostaltyn is the embodiment of Orthodox Christian patriarchs, well, I've had fun playing as him and yelling heretics at everyone, but still. So why am I doing this anyway? Well, because the Kislev aspect of the game hits me at a personal, cultural level, so I'm just asking questions and I'm presenting the fact that yes, Kislev is based off of Christian Orthodox people of Eastern Europe, but they exaggerate them a bit through the very severe dogma, and people like Kostaltyn considers every nation apart from his a bunch of heretics who he hesitates to even trade with, as can be seen in his dialogue in the trading screen. He's like, please forgive me, Orson, for trading with a heretic. And what concerns the Ice Queen Tsarina Catherine, what can I say? Orthodox people led by a woman ice witch, Kostaltyn would not approve. And I know Creative Assembly, who made this game, advertises her as the main campaign choice. I know it's tied into the lore, and I know Kislev's progress as a nation and in the past has won wars because of, for example, the shaman priestess Miska the Slaughterer. But in my opinion, Kislev's spirit is in the Orthodoxy bear cult and not with an ice witch, even if she's the daughter of Boris. I might be wrong, the lore is quite complex. Look, I know Catherine, according to the lore, is good with keeping an ordered empire, but I just think she doesn't really fit with the culture. But she might be a good choice to lead Kislev because she can keep it under control. She creeps me out though, and she creeps a lot of Kislevites out too. So what's with all this complaining though? Well, I wish that the main hero for the Kislev campaign would be an honorable Kislev man, a balanced Tsar. Not a witch or a dogma-blinded religious ruler, a man who respects his culture and wants to fight for it. A man who doesn't shout ridiculous things to his men. A Tsar or a patriarch that understands the difference between monks and regular people or warriors and knows how to respect these roles without shouting dogma at everyone like a madman. I would like a hero who doesn't look like a madman also. Perhaps I want someone like Yuri in the prologue. In fact, I didn't even expect him to get corrupt because I had the option to choose if he wanted to take a chaos weapon or not, and usually I chose to not pick it, but the prologue ending treats everyone like they chose to take it and become corrupt. If what happens is canon, to the story, then why did they offer me those choices in the first place? Because I roleplayed as an uncorruptible Prince of Kislev, when the choice to pick up the weapon or not was offered. What I'm saying is Creative Assembly had the chance to present Kislev and Orthodoxy, which is based on real-world Eastern European Orthodox people, and they chose to represent it with a crazy religious patriarch, purger of blasphemies, or an ice witch tsar. You do get to play as a third hero, but you only unlock him after completing the game. I guess I can try him now and see how he's like. But from what I've heard reading the lore, Boris Ursus is the Tsar of Tsars and embodies the characteristics that I have said. So why is he not the main hero of the campaign? Why is not Tsarina Catherine bonus unlockable content instead? I guess we will never know. Perhaps because of games being forced to have strong female leads by feminists these days. When you have these as the main story choices, one might be led to play as the forces of chaos instead and enjoy destroying all these crazy humans and everything that lives that are power hungry just like the forces of chaos anyway, masking as moral fighters and empires when in fact they are ruthless, authoritarian, expansive empires. But speaking about Boris Ursus, the question is, after witnessing the gameplay, do I want to play the whole thing again with the new hero? Even if he is the one. I don't know, man, I'm kind of burnt out of these mechanics. So let's talk about them to get it out of my system. Now, as you know, I did a Total War Warhammer What They Don't Tell You previous video, in which I have said all that was to say about what I consider flaws of the game mechanics, and somehow, through some kind of miracle, some of those problems were removed. It's as if they've actually listened to mine and other people's complaints. Remember when I said about the maps being small and the sieges and how the towers straight up shoot at you when you start the battle? Now that's gone, because the map is big enough so that you are not automatically within the range of these towers, and you can make tactical decisions at your own pace, which is great. However, they've added other annoying things instead, like towers that just rebuild themselves out of thin air during the battle, or barricades that rebuild themselves as long as you don't conquer a specific region that has control of that area. They can keep rebuilding. It's not a big deal, but it feels like a minigame, not like something real. It takes away from my immersion, and I'm reminded that I live in a fake world where towers rebuild themselves. Imagine if in the movie Lord of the Rings, when they break a tower at Helm's Deep, Gandalf is like, "It's okay guys, we can just rebuild everything. I'll just start that clock here and everything will be rebuilt." So let's move on to another small annoying thing. Why do I have to click so much after I win a battle? It's like one notification to let me know I beat the army, one to let me know what general I beat. I click that away, then I have a notification on what loot I got. Then if it was part of some mission that I didn't care about, that I just completed, it's like 4 or 5 things to click on, and then you have to go in your heroes box and select which attribute you want to make better. And if that isn't enough, now you have to go in his inventory and select what armor he wears, what talisman, what weapon, and also, last but not least, the people in his council who influence him and give certain benefits. So that's all good. But hey, if you have 1 or 2 more heroes in the army, you don't have to do all that for them too. And if you have multiple armies across different front lines dealing with stuff every turn, then it kind of gets old and annoying to click on everything. I understand the reasoning behind it. Of course, you want to improve your heroes in specific ways and decide what build to have with each of them, but for example, I feel there should be an auto button on the heroes with a simple tick to, for example, say, improve this hero as a spy, or improve this hero's effects on the morale and abilities of the soldiers, or improve his own ability to deal damage and take the hits. I know they have a button for automatically building things in settlements, which actually I prefer to do that manually, but we need one for heroes' abilities. And I would remove some of those notifications instead, bury that information somewhere else, where the player can check if they want to. But hey, no big deal, we can live with this level of annoyance, so let's move on to something else. when you are in the heat of battle, which is super short anyway, you at least want to have immediate responsiveness from the units to your orders. So let's say you want to move a unit from their current combat to reinforce another part of the battle line. Well, too bad, because compared to Warhammer 2, as shown by Zerkovich, your unit will take ages to disengage and lose manpower in the process, which is indeed more realistic to have to struggle retreating from a current battle line and re-engage in a different place. However, you either keep this mechanic but also make the battles conclude slower, or you return back the responsiveness to the order and make it snappy. If it was my choice, I would prefer the battle casualties happen more slower and the units struggle a bit to move, because as it is right now, I pause a lot during gameplay to give my orders because the battle itself finishes quite fast. Not to mention the fact that Volund has pointed out that Total War modern mechanics are just bars and numbers simulations instead of individual units taking out individual units. And the fact that you can't crush these numbers with tactics, and that the numbers and how expensive is a unit will always decide the outcome. I've noticed this myself. Maybe I am a bad player, but in Total War Rome 2 Dividet Impera mod, a flank or a rear cavalry charge is saint. You can turn the tide of any battle even with less expensive units. I don't think it works the same here. It's hard to hold a line, and the rear cav charges are less effective on expensive units. At that point I ask, am I actually playing the game, or am I just being played? Should I just auto-resolve everything because it doesn't matter how I play anyway? I don't know, but I ended up auto-resolving a lot, and that is mostly due to the really important thing that I want to talk about from this campaign, which is the pacing and content thrown at you. The pacing is fast and there is a lot thrown at you. Even if you are a new player and complete the tutorial prologue, you still feel you are overwhelmed with stuff. The location of Kislev itself is hard and it is lore accurate, so I can't complain, but I will still complain. You'll get attacked from hordes of Chaos and Norscans from the west, and you'll get attacked from Nurgle in the north, but also you'll get navally attacked by Tsech or Slanesh, either from north or from the Sea of Claws, although I'm not that sure which is which, because I auto-resolved due to the sheer volume of attacks. It's just not fun anymore, and is quite repetitive, but they are both chaos gods of different attributes. It's just that to me, because everything is so fast, you don't have the time to differentiate and get a sense of identity. You barely have time to get a sense of who you are. The only reason I know is because I read lore on the side, and that's the problem if you play a Total War game, whether from now or even from the past. If you don't know the lore or the history, everything is boring. It is we, with our imaginations, who give value to this game by knowing the geopolitical situation of the factions. But the game doesn't really present that to you properly, even with the fancy new cinematics that were added in this game, which I have to admit they were a plus this time, because in all the other Total Wars you mostly saw cinematics in race presentations on the Total War YouTube channel, but not in the game story. In the game you mostly just play these battles over and over without much story. And at least now we got some story. I liked freeing the bear from the shackles of Belacor, and I was motivated to do it. So good job on that. But man, the pacing. So the waves of hordes from the expected places if you know the lore, unexpected if you're a new player though. But it's not just that. On top you have the rifts, which bring random armies onto your territories if you don't close them quickly enough. But you can also use them, so you can go to the different realms and gather the different souls, which by the way are needed in a race to who gets them first. It's the main quest, and it's a bit rushed in. So if you want to be able to do that, you want to get to a point where you have two armies pretty quick. One that can defend your territory, and your main one that journeys to get these souls far away from your lands. Now, to get enough territory for two armies, you have to conquer something. I played as Kostaltyn, So for me, I could have invaded Norska first or Kislev factions. But to be honest, the Norska path is a bit complicated because it's on the coast, and that means you can expect attacks from the north randomly on any of those coastal settlements. Not to mention the frost and attrition to move about on those territories, then the other territory being split and hard to reach to defend it from chaos hordes. It would have been a pain, so my plan was instead to attack some Kislev territories so that my regions are connected together in a way that makes sense. Supporters go down if you attack Kislev, but with enough churches being built and then focusing on defending and winning a lot of battles against chaos, that devotion and supporters skyrocket and you end up confederating Tsarina Katarin quite easily. So yeah, there's this race to confederate Kislev as well. So race to get the souls, race to get the confederation, race to not get your ass kicked in general, closing rifts, helping the incompetent allied AI from getting pounded by ogres or vampires. So much stuff to do, and it's all so fast. Karl Franz, I'm looking at you. Why you don't help better? Imagine if someone doesn't know how to use the ambush mechanic, for instance. Imagine how many turns they will waste trying to catch an army that is constantly fleeing from their grasp. Every turn matters in these different races, and why so much racing? I feel like this game relies on some kind of manipulative psychological factor that is something else other than enjoyable gameplay. It makes you play because you need to. Oh, you're expanding in the east? Oh, well, we'll just throw at you these 2 stacks north to invade your settlements, so you'll have to come back and clear this up. You know, you want to see them go away, so you better play these extra turns, and only then you'll be able to have a clean empire and resume whatever you were doing. Oh, and here's another 4 stacks on the west flank as well. Oh, you want to expand? You can't for now. You need to finish the main story first before you'll have the resources to afford that. Oh, you want to have resources? Well, we've just wiped out the human races that you were trading with, and now you've got enemies to the south. You'll have to deal with that now. Good luck against the vampires. So each time you will waste so many turns trying to understand how you can be efficient and learn the right way to win the game. It's like the makers of the game are the extremist Orthodox that want you to finish the game only in one pre-designed way. Orthodox means the right way, or the right belief, by the way. And that way, in Creative Assembly's vision, means not being able to chill. You have to constantly push. Say you start at Kostaltyn. You don't have time. You have to charge with your small army straight away and not even replenish it properly so that you can get troll country fast. Then you want to go and get the Kislev faction to your east fast, because you want to be done with that and be ready for the first chaos invasion. And for the rifts to come in, you want to have 2 armies when the rifts arrive, then rinse and repeat between defending against chaos, closing rifts and getting souls. Not too much lingering. Confederate Tsarina, get more armies, then defend the north and the west flanks, but also if you can wipe out those vampires so that humans still exist and help them with the ogre problem to the west, they just can't do it themselves. They are absolute babies. Karl Franz, despite the legends, Creative Assembly wrote him as a soy boy. Okay, so do all that fast. Get the souls and beat the final boss. The end. That's the game. Now, because of the frequency of the battles, you never want to do a non-auto-resolved battle ever again. The game manages to kill your desire for what makes this game great. That moment you've been waiting for when you get to show your amazing army stack built specifically for your faction and playstyle, but the game kills it for you. Oh well, I guess that's that. What I do like is the map itself. I like that it has different biomes and choke points where one could develop their geopolitical strategy, so the potential is there. But my message to Creative Assembly would be to pace it out more. Make less but meaningful battles. Similar to how the mod team Divided Impera has managed to do for Total War Rome 2, where armies replenish slow and are expensive to make, both for you and the AI. That way, when your armies clash with another factions, you know that it's an important moment, and if you beat them, you know that it will take a lot of time before the faction attacks you again, or you can now proceed to get their undefended territories, but not too fast because your units take time to replenish, or they can't replenish in foreign lands until you have certain buildings. Like you want to replenish your noble elite force in a new settlement from the wastelands that has no nobility? Well, you shouldn't be able to, or it should take a lot of time for new units to travel to you from the Empire. These types of measures will make your life harder, but it will make it less rinse and repeat. When an army of chaos will siege you, it will be a tough and important moment, and you will feel like you are against a champion. But if you win, you will know that you won't have to deal with them for a while. As it is, all those armies have no value, and they are reduced to flies that you have to squash left and right. So what's the point of not auto-resolving? They don't feel like real battles or real consequences. So again, make less and meaningful battles that we will love to play for real. The space between events should be bigger. They should give you at least 100 turns to make your great Kislev. And they should bring in the rifts. They should make the AI get the souls lower so that you don't feel like you're a hamster rushing to get something. They should make the friendly AI smarter so that we don't have to babysit on the Empire to our south or the dwarves to our east. Not make them overpowered, but to me it seems like they're just getting wrecked. Do something with those attributes for the heroes too. There's too much stuff to click on. Auto upgrade directions should be put in place for different type of builds. Less notifications, only show things when they're important, otherwise it should just be in the general event feed section. One time only constructible towers and barricades. Make them have more health points instead, if you want them to last longer. I know you're looking for new mechanics, but new is not always a good thing. It has to fit in a logical context. For instance, that technology tree. I know it's new and every faction has their own style, but we used to have the tech trees that made sense, split in categories like economic, war effort, public order, etc. And it was better, because you knew where to look. Now it's just random. So bring that back please, just make everything in that logical context. So all this will make for an efficient campaign and a slower but more meaningful and realistic campaign. As for the looks and sounds of the game, I have no issue with. All the sounds when you click on anything are layered, which shows they didn't cheap out on the sound, and it really adds to the fantasy feel of the game. The music is fine, although I would have preferred it to be exclusively instrumental rather than having those women singing parts that sound like it's coming from a pagan shaman feminist event, but it does blend in. It just sometimes it makes me think of that for some reason. The map looks different in quality from the one in Warhammer 2. I don't know if it's better or worse. Maybe it's because of me mainly looking at the cold wastelands of Kislev and thinking that the textures are more boring, when in fact maybe they are good and it's just my old graphics card that is to blame. Same for the units. I don't know if they done something to them, but to me they look less sharp, and it's not like the movements of the heroes or monsters are more complex than in the previous game to melt the calculation potential of my computer. It looks about the same to me, but somehow less sharp. Maybe it's me. But I play in high quality settings with no frame issues. Anyways, graphics are irrelevant to me. When I was a kid I wanted graphics to evolve slowly and instead have more complex and realistic gameplay, but in reality what I got was an emphasis on the graphics while being negligent with the gameplay. Perhaps I'm in the wrong universe. So that's it for my review. I hope you got something from it, and if you disagree with the opinions, at least you learned some tips on how to win with Kostaltyn. I understand the Immortal Empires will be released, and that will give you the options to play as any faction you like or that you own through the controversial DLCs. One thing is for sure, I can't wait for Creative Assembly to get done with this fantasy child's play and get back to serious things like a new medieval or Rome game or something in the 1700s or 1800s, real history, focusing on making the simple mechanics the best mechanics. Not hundreds of mechanics at average quality. To think that there are people there who wish they had the PC to be able to play this, who are saving money so they can buy everything it has to offer, who look at the trailers with puppy eyes, those visuals still your eyes and interest, but the game is not really worth it in that way. It is an enjoyable play, but it's not a big deal. It's still rough around the edges and playing in on that Warhammer fanbase market who just want to play endless battles on a giant map, wasting thousands and thousands of hours. So I wish everyone a good day. Thanks for watching. Sorry for rambling too much. This is Vostov Vlad, signing out.